Joining us right now on the Chief Zone podcast. We tried to connect with him. I believe it was around the bye week or sometime during the season, but he had something come up. So we had to push that off for a little bit. Been trying to get him back on the podcast for quite some time. And we're able to find a time, so we're doing it in the summer during the off season, and I think it's a good time to kind of talk about this with the off season now kind of in full force. OTAs taking place, not a whole lot of Chiefs news going on, so a good time to talk to this gentleman and get his thoughts on the Chiefs, catch up with him, see what he's doing, and kind of look back at some of the things that he did that may have made an impact on the franchise. And here to talk to us right now, Marty McDonald, the founder of Save Our Chiefs and runs the Chiefs Kingdom Facebook page. Marty, welcome into the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. And, I'm more of an off-season guy than an in-season guy, apparently. So happy to be here today.
No, I appreciate you coming on. There's a lot I really want to get into. Obviously, you ran a pretty big Facebook page, and you guys also created a Twitter account for this. You got a website going, and it really caught wind. Now, I want to get into all of that in just a moment, but I know you keep in touch with a lot of Chiefs fans. You still voice your opinion on the team right now. I'm curious, what have you been up to over the past few years? I see you're doing a lot of coaching, and you share a lot of the coaching experiences that you do with kids. Is that correct?
Yeah, so, both of my kids are a little bit older, so I don't have as much time to spend on Chiefs news as I would like to, as both of them are highly active in softball and baseball, and I coach a club team out in Arizona that seems to be playing every other weekend nowadays. Pretty busy schedule with that. Just enjoying the life that comes with that and being at the tournaments, in the field with the parents, the boys themselves, and also watching my daughter advance in softball and beginning to start her club journey here this fall.
So what got you into wanting to coach kids sports? Was it because of your own kids, or was this something that you had wanted to do for a long time?
Well, I used to be a college baseball athlete, and when that day came that college baseball and my abilities weren't in sync, I still loved the game, wanted to stay involved, so I went back to coach at my alma mater, high school, for a couple of years, and really enjoyed myself. The first time I actually ever started coaching was still as a senior in high school, and I would help as an assistant with our summer freshman team. And so from there, just stayed active with the sport, worked in some different parks and rec programs, volunteered some time there, and then obviously tried to, finish up college and get my professional life and career underway. And so I came back to the sport a few years ago and just enjoy giving back. And, I see good things and I see bad things every weekend I'm out at park. And it's definitely been an interesting experience, to say the least.
Now, you mentioned college baseball. Where did you play college baseball?
So I originally signed with a school in Ohio. It was a Division II school called Ashland University. And then I ended my career at Central Arizona, which was a JUCO out here. The head coach at the time was a gentleman named Clint Myers, who was a standout player at Arizona State. He actually left baseball and became the softball coach at Arizona State before moving on to Auburn, where he just recently retired within the last couple of years. So wanted to get experience playing under Coach Myers and learn some things from him to help me be a better coach.
The reason I asked that, because my next question, and of course I want to get into your Chiefs fandom and what you did. Are you originally from Kansas City, or did you ever live in Kansas City at any point in your life?
Yeah, I grew up in Kansas City. Shawnee would have gone to Shawnee Mission Northwest High School if I had stayed. But I am from the Midwest and frequently try to get back there several times a year just for the barbecue and see my family that I still have back there and catch either a Royals game or a Chiefs game.
Which barbecue joint do you like the most?
Old school style. I'm still a Bryant and Gates guy at heart, but man, I love Q39. It is a must stop for me every time I'm in Kansas City. And it's become like the first stop for me every time I'm in Kansas City. So really enjoy the food over there. But I still give my old haunts patronage and get my fill of barbecues from a few different places.
Yeah, certainly can never go wrong anywhere in Kansas City. And again, the reason I was asking you where you were from and all, because when I first heard about you and what you were doing, I found out that you're some guy from Arizona. I thought, okay, it's a little odd to hear this kind of a story, a Chiefs fan that's doing something big to get his voice out there from Arizona. And of course, I did that exclusive interview with you on Bleacher Report that got a lot of attention on the website there. And you were talked about nationally. People were talking about you and what you did, flying banners around, something that really no sports fan had ever done before. How did this idea all come about?
It's a great question. We had a great group of guys with Eric and myself leading the charge, and Frank, Phil, and Travis lending a big hand in the process. And, really just got pissed off over a lazy, crappy Sunday afternoon game between the Chiefs and the Chargers. Obviously, the Chiefs lost, and was hanging out on ChiefsPlanet.com reading the stuff, and just decided to start something on a whim to save our Chiefs on the social media with Twitter and Facebook. And then Eric was doing some posturing, if you will, on the message board, and I'm like, shoot, let's just do it. And that's how it became a thing. And one thing led to another. And I remember sitting in the office at a former employer of mine. It's a major media company, and we were just watching. ESPN.com did a story on us. NFL.com had a story on us, and we were just watching the Facebook page grow exponentially. We watched the Twitter grow exponentially, and it was the right thing at the right moment in time, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of work. We took a lot of grief, and why is the guy from Arizona leading the charge? And really, it doesn't matter where anybody was from. We're all Chiefs fans. And I just happened to be the dork who decided to stand up and say enough is enough and, put my foot on the gas pedal.
So what was your reaction? I mean, certainly you could not have imagined it would grow like this. I'm sure you had a goal. You wanted it to catch on, but I'm sure it really just caught you by surprise. What was your reaction when you saw a lot of people just basically paying attention to you?
Yeah, and it's really kind of an interesting way to look at it. That wasn't the goal. The goal is just to create the awareness. And, I'm not naive enough to know this organization. My history with the organization extends pretty far back to when I lived there. Family were season ticket holders. And then I had media rights from the organization back in the year 2000. Covering the team with a project that I had going on at that time. And so it was real familiar, and I already had relationships in place. And so when this all went down, some of those long-standing relationships came a benefit to give us information. I mean, we knew that Cornell was getting fired. We knew about the Peyton Manning stuff before it hit mainstream. And the irony of it is no one really wanted to give us the recognition that we rightfully deserved, but yet they were hooked on the site, hooked on the movement, couldn't leave it. It was kind of like a bad car wreck. You just couldn't stop staring at it. And it was a lot of fun, quite frankly, and the things that we did and the people we met. And we met some great people over the years, some relationships that frankly have transcended the movement and, have become good Facebook friends and good friends in real life, and people I see now every time I go back to Kansas City and meet with. And so it's just been a ton of fun. It was a great thing. It was unique. And I don't regret one iota what we did. I don't regret any of the negative beef that we caught from certain folks who just didn't have the mental capacity to understand what we were doing. But it was a ton of fun, and I think it changed things in Kansas City on the sports scene. I don't think it was the change agent change agent, I should say. But it definitely, there was an influence, and I heard from several within the organization that the movement was dismissed at the onset, but because of the popularity, because of the constant pressure that we put, when you got, I believe it was CBS and Marv Albert and Rich Gannon were talking about the movement during the Chiefs-Bengals blackout game.
Yeah.
The organization at that point couldn't choose to ignore it any longer.
That was a really weird season. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of bad gameplay on the gridiron and all, but there was that whole incident with you flying the banners over the stadium. And I think there was some strange incident where I think a Chiefs fan, they lashed out on the Chiefs on Twitter tagging the franchise, and I guess the Chiefs responded to them with a DM on Twitter saying, "You need to be a real fan. Stop criticizing us." And I'm sure you caught a lot of grief from a lot of fans because there are a lot of sports fans out there. They support the team no matter what, win, lose, draw. They'll still root them on. Essentially, they don't want to have opinions. They just want to be supportive. What was your reaction? What would you say to people who told you, go be a fan of another team or stop doing what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the guy you're talking about was Travis Wright, and he was one of the folks who joined the movement and used his interactions with the Chiefs to help foster our go-forward attack, as well as some of the things that Travis does today professionally. I mean, we are both in the digital marketing space. We both know how to leverage social media to a benefit. But, the message I guess I would have for folks is it's simple. We did what we did because we are fans. And it is okay to have a contrarian view and still support a franchise and want something better. That is okay. And I think some people are just of the old ilk that, hey, through thick or through thin, we're going to stand behind our team. Well, we did that. But we also went the extra mile. We took money out of our pocket to show how much we cared about the team and put our own skin in the game to create the voice. Whether it was money or whether it was the other currency known as time, we invested a lot into this effort. And I think that's the cool fandom that's out there. We didn't do anything silly. The canned Pioli food drive was about the silliest thing that we were going to pull off, and we had so many food banks lined up in the greater Kansas City area to be benefactors of the canned food drive. And then you had the unfortunate incident the day before with the Jovan Belcher suicide. So we had to scrap that at the last minute, which was a logistical challenge from Arizona to put it together and then turn it off at the last minute. But everybody understood. But, people tend to judge and hate things they don't fully understand. And once people really understood and engaged in dialogue with us, they got it. They understood our why. And I think they might not have fully have supported us, but they ultimately respected what we did.
Marty McDonald, the founder of Save Our Chiefs, here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. Okay, so here's what I want to know. Who exactly was flying those planes? Was it you and Eric, or did you guys have someone else along with you guys who were up in the sky doing all that?
No, we hired a sky pilot, and he gave us a discount on his services because he claimed that we were doing God's work.
Interesting. So that's really it. That's the story behind that?
That's it.
I think it was Scott Pioli. He did an exclusive interview with 810 and 610. He did a couple separate interviews there. And I believe it was Jay Binkley of 610 who had spoke to him. And the conversation about those banners came up. And Pioli said something to the effect of how, he took that personally because he has a daughter and she sees those things. His family sees those things. I can understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, when you're a public figure and you have a big job like that, you're making a lot of money. I think you have to understand that you could be, you can be criticized for poor performance. Did you regret any of what you did, or would you have changed anything that you would have done?
No, we never attacked Pioli at a personal level or a family level, and we certainly kept his family out of everything that we did. We stuck to the facts. That's what drove a lot of people nuts, is that we stuck to the facts. Clay Wendler out there was a big part of this whole process, and I forgot to mention his name early on, but the one thing that Clay always said is keep it factual and keep the emotion out of the debate and out of the rhetoric that we were creating. Now, we had fun with memes and all that fun stuff, but what a lot of people have to understand is when you cross over from private to public, you give up a lot in your life. You give up a lot of your ability to go to the grocery store and be left alone. You give up your ability to sit down and eat a cheeseburger at a Wendy's, or in your case, Five Guys. In a public,
well played.
Without disruption. And so you are subject to criticism. You are subject to the negative side. And, much like a debate that's happening right now on my personal Facebook page between Roseanne Barr's racist comments and Keith Olbermann's hate speech-filled comments, you can't have one without accepting the other, meaning you cannot have one side of fame and fortune and public awareness and not have the other side where you are criticized openly. And I know there's some fanatics as part of, fans of Save Our Chiefs that did make some of this stuff personal with Pioli in their Facebook posts and tweets, and we would try to delete and farm it as much as we could. But as a group, we were never interested in going down that road.
I want to rewind for a bit because you talked about how the Chiefs were trying to squash all this, and it got to the point where it was impossible to ignore. I do remember that game specifically, the Blackout Arrowhead, where the announcers talked about it on the air. Did the Chiefs directly contact you, or did they reach out just to the Facebook page? Did they? And I can't recall if they made a statement about any of this. How much of that can you share if you were contacted by anybody from the organization?
Well, my partner that day, Eric, was actually detained by stadium security. We had 8.5 by 11 white sheets of paper that simply said "Fire Pioli" on the front, and on the back side it stated all the factual performance-based issues with the Pioli regime. And they were detained by Arrowhead security, and when Eric let me know that, we immediately tweeted things out. Jason Whitlock at the time jumped on the story, and then Eric was ultimately let go by team personnel. There's other people inside the organization, and there's a couple that are still there today in different areas where, they openly said that, it shook the root of the organization, that the Hunts typically ignore this stuff, but it got their attention when they saw that many people dressed in black at Arrowhead. And that was the whole goal of the blackout. It wasn't to, turn Arrowhead into Oakland Midwest and all this other malarkey that I heard. It was solely designed to create a visual message, because while we had the planes flying, you only saw those on local news. You never saw them on the national level. But with the blackouts, it could not be ignored at the national level. It was discussed, and when you have CBS openly talking about it, that's a big deal, because that stuff is typically never discussed by the in-game broadcast crew. I mean, you'll have a streaker run across the field at a sporting event, and very rarely will the broadcast network film or show the streaker and blur out the things that need to be blurred out. They refuse to acknowledge it. And in this case, you had CBS acknowledge it during an in-game broadcast on an NFL property. And so that, to me, was the tipping point timeline-wise. That was at also the time when Clark started reaching out through back channels to make the changes at the GM level as well as the coaching level that happened at the end of the season.
So that was actually going to be my next question. I guess we kind of answered it, and I wanted to ask you if you can give me your honest answer on this. My question is, do you feel like you made an impact and your movement really did cause change? Because I think you did. If you remember, what was it, 2009? And I don't know if this was you or who was it, but somebody started a petition to basically ask the Chiefs to release Larry Johnson because he was getting in a lot of trouble and they did not want him at the time to pass Priest Holmes for the all-time rushing leader in franchise history. I mean, next thing you know, he ended up being let go. Chiefs fans really do seem like they've had a voice in a lot of situations, and I think you really did play a big role in really what's happening now, making those changes. And look, I know we can criticize Andy Reid, but he's got the best winning percentage among any coach in franchise history.
Yeah, the stuff with Larry was not us, wasn't me, wasn't anyone affiliated with the Save Our Chiefs movement. So I can't speak to that, but I can tell you that I think we were one of many factors of the influence ecosystem in the decision. Obviously, the crappy records, the poor play of the quarterback at the time, the lack of vision from the coach, and the micromanagement of the general manager. Those were all ingredients in what was really just a crappy meal that the Hunt family finally realized they couldn't keep shoving down the throats of Chiefs fans.
Did you see, obviously the following season, the Chiefs, they went from being the worst team in the NFL to getting off to a 9-0 start, and that was one of the more popular stories that was talked about in the NFL in 2013. Did you ever see Sean Keeler's column on FoxSports.com at the time where he mentioned your name?
I don't fully remember it.
So basically what he did, he basically, the headline says, "Take a bow, Chiefs fans, you're the most powerful fans in North American sports." And he basically congratulated a lot of Chiefs fans, including you. There was also a Chiefs fan named Sam Lichtig. I don't know if you recall this, but there was a Chiefs fan who had passed away at the age of 81, and the family decided to actually have fun with it. In the obituary, they said something to the effect of how he died because of constant heartbreak and disappointment caused by the Kansas City Chiefs. And basically, Sean Keeler was congratulating Chiefs fans and some notable Chiefs fans, including one yourself. Did you ever see that?
I might have. It's not jumping out at me right now.
Okay.
But I do remember the gentleman who passed away, and his obituary was quite comical.
I thought it was pretty cool that your name was on there because, like I said, I really do think you've made a big impact in what you've done. I really do appreciate that. As someone who's always been a realist, I mean, look, I love the team. I'll probably be biased here and there, and on Sundays I'll predict them to win at times. But I'm a lot like you, and I think a lot of fans feel that way as well. Where, yeah, sure, they want the team to win, but they also look at it from a realistic standpoint. And if they feel like change is needed, they'll root for that when that time comes. I do want to ask you, what are your thoughts with everything going on with the team right now? I know I alluded earlier, Andy Reid, his postseason record, not the greatest. Those last two playoff games have not been very good, but I mean, the Chiefs do have the fifth best record since Andy Reid's gotten here. I mean, that's got to count for something, and hopefully that translates to something down the road. I'm curious, what are your thoughts seeing this Chiefs team now?
I'm excited. I'm frustrated. Not to the point to start another movement, but look, Alex Smith gave us everything he possibly could give us as an organization over the last several years. We just couldn't get over the proverbial hump, right? And it's like the same message I preach to my baseball boys. You start fast, you finish faster, and that's it. And the Chiefs last year at times embraced that and at times didn't. And that's the tough part about being an athlete competing at the highest level, right? It's easy for all of us with podcasts and direct TV access and internet access to sit here and say that. It's tough when you're competing between the sidelines or inside of the sidelines, and we lose that aspect of it as fans. And so I sat in Arrowhead for the Titans playoff loss, sat in New England for that playoff loss, and I sat in Indianapolis for that playoff loss. So I'm done going to playoff games just for everybody's benefit and my own personal sanity. But in each of those, it's because we simply didn't learn how to close something out. And in the Patriots case, we just kind of got hot, a little too little, too late there, and we decided not to guard Gronkowski early in the game and give up too much stuff underneath. But I digress. But I'm excited, for Pat Mahomes. Look, we've not had a young, energetic quarterback that has just created the energy that he's created. Todd Blackledge certainly didn't do it back in the early 80s, and Mark Vlasic was never going to be that guy. And, the kid from Stanford, I actually was intrigued by that selection, but he didn't really pan out. And Tyler Bray has been nothing but just, a myth, if anything. And so I'm excited for what we're going to see out of Mahomes. Do I expect some mistakes? Of course. I expect him to throw some interceptions, but in the end, the good will outweigh the bad, and that's what you want to see with a kid like Mahomes. You can't ignore what he did in college. I remember sitting in Sun Devil Stadium when Texas Tech and ASU played, and Kalen Ballage had his 8 rushing touchdowns, but I was just enamored with what Mahomes was doing on the field and saw that, the Chiefs had scouting representation there at that game. So I knew they were interested in him because there certainly wasn't anyone on the Arizona State side worthy of being drafted at that time. But, so I'm looking forward to it. And I think the offense with Kelsey, Watkins, some of the other receivers that we have in place, you've got Kareem Hunt. I think the line's going to be a little bit better, a little bit stronger this year. We've got some really strong dynamic options, and everyone wants to rag on the defense. I think it's going to be a little bit better than what people think. It's not like Farmer Bob has much more time on the sidelines as a coordinator, so I'm sure his desire to go out on top is going to be pretty strong. And I think Reed is tired of some of the, criticisms that he's received, and this is his last run with a young, dynamic quarterback, so he wants to make it memorable.
Yeah, certainly, and I do agree with you on the defense. I've been seeing that too. I think with Eric Berry coming back, I know Marcus Peters. I mean, that was a shock to a lot of us, but I really do like Kendall Fuller and David Amerson. I think those are 2 underrated quarterbacks, and those guys are going to do big things for Kansas City, and hopefully Justin Houston. We'll see what Breland speaks, but I think this defense is going to be better for sure in 2018 compared to that big step back they had in 2017. Marty, before I let you go, I know you guys changed Save Our Chiefs to the Chiefs Kingdom. So before I let you go ahead and plug your Facebook and Twitter pages, because I know you're still interacting with fans. How can fans connect with you on social media?
Yeah, just hit us at Twitter at, 1_Chiefs Kingdom. We're over there. And then we're on the Chiefs Kingdom on Facebook. And, there's a few Facebook pages out there with the name Chiefs Kingdom in it. However, there's only one that has the following size that we do. So in this case, size does matter on the Facebook page, so you know that you're finding the right one. But we would love to have you on the page. We've been a little dormant here over the last few months with some random posts here and there, but as training camp fires up, we'll be back and active. mode again on that. But just, we've got 28,000 likes on that page and 27,000 people follow the page itself. So if you haven't gone over there, please do so. And it is the Chiefs Kingdom on Facebook.
He's Marty McDonald, the founder of Save Our Chiefs, and also runs the Chiefs Kingdom fan page on Facebook and Twitter. Marty, again, I really do appreciate what you did, because I think that does take a lot of commitment and really just a lot to go out and do. And you took a lot of grief for it, and you obviously had a lot of thick skin through all of this. And I really do think you made a big impact, as I mentioned earlier. So I really do appreciate everything you did. And I do appreciate you coming on the podcast. Hopefully we can have you on back again one day.
Yeah, no, let's make a date to do something in season and see how them boys in red are doing after the first quarter of the year.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Hey, Marty, thank you so much for your time. And as I said, we'll keep in touch.
Sounds good, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Marty. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.